Welcome back to Chapter Chats. Today we are exploring Chapter 15 of Dr. Chuck Hodell's book, ISD from the Ground Up, a no-nonsense approach to instructional design. This chapter tackles the challenges of migrating courses to online environments. So let's dive right in, Chuck. First question. You mentioned that migrating courses online is often treated as lifting and shifting. Why is that approach problematic, and what mindset should designers adopt instead?
Well, this chapter, as you're looking through it, you're probably going to think, well, this is really obvious stuff, or I hadn't thought about this before. But if you've ever been in a situation where you are responsible for migrating courses from classroom to any kind of electronic medium, you're going to quickly find out it's not just your instructional design skills that are so important. It's also your project management and your leadership skills, because you have to think about the product differently. It's not in the classroom. People are just not going to sit there and watch somebody. You got to think about, how am I going to maximize all of this content in this new medium? What can I take out? What do I need to put in? Where do I put interactivity in my design? What are the other things that I need to think about in terms of moving this to this new medium? So can I actually think about microlearning? Are the things here that we can use social media or other forms of microlearning to enhance this product? And one thing I've found that really is important, and what you're probably going to run into, is that people that have designed the first product, which is a static product in course, are going to be somewhat resistant to now thinking about this in a different way. And sometimes they go along with it. Sometimes they'll fight you on things. And what I've found is, if I can go back and show them where I can create a better product for them, then I think they start to look at this differently. But it really is about not taking it and just shifting it over into something else. It's not that easy. Anybody that does that's kidding themselves. Now, maybe it'll work for them, but I'm telling you, there's a better way to do it.
You list planning questions for online migration. In your experiences, which of these questions tends to get overlooked? What makes a big difference when addressed?
Yeah, I think as you look in the book and look at the questions, these are things that any good analyst is going to have in their toolkit for this kind of a project. And you look at them and think, okay, well, do I need to really think about all these things? Are all these things important? And of course, each one is project specific. You may or may not use all of these. But I'll guarantee you, if you look through them and you think about them, what you're going to find is, oh, yeah, that's logical, or something else. Because one thing we are in instructional design is incredibly logical, which sometimes doesn't go well for us with other groups. But this is one of those cases where I look through these questions and say, okay, and it's little things like just implementation time. Because 2.5 hours per week in a sitting course, especially in higher education, and how do I transfer that to 8, 10, 12, 16 weeks online? So there's all kinds of things you just need to sit back and really think it through to take what you have existing and turn it into what I've always found to be a much better product for learners.
One section in this chapter covers building presence and community in an online course. What are a couple of your favorite techniques for fostering this kind of engagement in a virtual space?
Oh, yeah, I love that question, because anybody that knows me or has ever sat through one of my courses or been with me online knows how much I hate icebreakers. I absolutely, totally dislike icebreakers, almost as much as I dislike level 1 evaluations. So when I'm thinking about this in this chapter, one thing I'm thinking about is, okay, icebreakers, people will argue, are to build some presence to, if you're looking at Gandhi's 9 events, we're trying to gain attention or whatever you want to think about it as. But online, you've got a whole different set of things. And gaining attention, I've had more fun doing that with online designs than I ever had in the classroom. Even when I was designing for other folks, it's because what I can do now is I can capture moments. I can be a street photographer for instructional design. I can capture things that I can now integrate into a course that will get people to think about things, that will gain attention, that will help them start to think about not only the content, but their participation in a different way. And as you think about community, what are the things that people share within the community that you have? What is the common threads in your population? And there are always common threads. So in higher education, everybody wants to get their certificate or their degree and move on. So you can always talk, very rationally about, okay, I understand we're shooting hoops here sometimes being a student, but okay, let's get this content down too. So in community, if you think about it, ask questions when people do their bios or their introductory post. If you're in an LMS or however you're doing this, have them put something in there that's unique about themselves. What's one thing you never told another classmate? What is your favorite experience if you're just trying to have fun? What's your favorite place to visit? Things that take it outside of the traditional educational context that you'll have in a classroom. And I have always found that the more you stretch that within legitimate boundaries, I mean, I don't need to know certain things about certain people, nor does anyone else. But some of the things I find out are just fascinating. Like people have been extras in movies, or they have done this or they've done that, got awards for things that have nothing to do with instructional design. So when you build that in and you start to think about community, yes, we are a community, but we're all individuals. We all bring something special as learners into this process. And let's find those little things. And not only is it interesting for the rest of us, but when I get to post something like that, I'm thinking, okay, well, this course is kind of cool. It's not just about this content, but actually it's about all of us looking at this content. So it's just amazing. And, if you would ask me, what's the one thing you would put in here? What would someone not know? It's my life as a musician, or it's my life as a police officer, or it's all the other things I've done that had nothing to do with instructional design, except later I might have been a subject matter expert. And then people look at my picture online, or they'll look at yours, Denise, because you have an incredible background, all the things you've done. I can only imagine what you would put in here. And so you think about it, and that's how you create community. Create that special place that's not only a little bit telling, but also incredibly inviting.
Yeah, and just a little offshoot from that. When I took your class, my first instructional design class, that was one of the first things you had us do. And you also framed it as a really great exercise in learning how to analyze your audience.
Yep.
So in an instructional design class, that's the whole purpose of that gaining attention activity was, well, let's learn about each other and analyze. It's going to put your analytical hat on, if you will, to be able to see if you can pick up certain things and really pay attention to what your audiences are saying, what their needs are, and et cetera.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly powerful. And I still teach online at master's, PhD level. And even very accomplished people will come up with stuff that I would never have guessed in 10,000 years that was part of their life or something that was important to them in their life. So you can create community. The medium is not the problem. It's your creativity and it's your imagination and your ability to want to design things that are welcoming and inviting.
Yeah. You highlighted several common mistakes when migrating courses online. What is one mistake that you still see designers or organizations making, and how can they avoid that?
I think the one thing that I have found personally to be a bigger issue is trying to motivate the creators of the original product into being implementation experts with the new product, and getting them over the mindset that somehow I'm being critical of their work originally, or that I'm finding fault in it, or I'm doing something else. And one thing I do early, and you know me, I get very humble about this stuff when I work with subject matter experts, no matter who they are, is I want them to know that I respect what they're doing, that what they did was incredible. And all we're doing is making it something better. We're not being critical of them. We're not criticizing their approaches, but it's a new medium, and everybody has to be okay with that. And as somebody who's done this for a while, here are the things that I've found as I work with you as an instructor or a professor or a trainer. And we're taking this and putting it online.
My final question for you, Chuck, in this chapter chat is for designers faced with an urgent online migration. What's one thing that they can prioritize to ensure the learner experience doesn't suffer?
Yeah. So the thing that I found when I'm doing things at scale, so I'm not moving one course, I'm moving 100 courses. And I've put entire colleges online. So the thing that I've found is the first thing I have to do is create a shell or a framework for how this product is going to be implemented. So in an LMS, you want to come up with course shells that are the same for each of your courses, so your students don't have to figure out in each one, okay, where do I go to find this? Where do I go to find that? So you have to have all of those kind of very basic things set up, put it in a template, put it in a framework, call it whatever you want to call it. But the notion is, what are the things that you can standardize without jeopardizing the course itself? And if you're in an LMS or an online approach to this, there are all kinds of things that you can do before you ever even put a name on the course or put that first bit of content in there. Navigation will be the same for each of these. So a student gets in and doesn't have to rethink it. This is where I get help. Okay, where's the link to get me to my professor or my teacher? All these basic things. So spend some time up front. Figure out what you want this final product to look like. How is it most efficient and effective? And then populate it with specifics for each course. And if you do that, Denise, what you're going to find is you can concentrate on the content and the things that are different and are important in each course. And you don't have to go back and rebuild the Titanic, just get in there, create what's going to work like the Queen Elizabeth, and don't think about it again. Just pop your stuff in there and off you go.
Well, Chuck, this has been a true pleasure being able to have these chapter chat insight talks with you. This was our final one, the final chapter. And it's been, again, a true pleasure learning from you with these chapter chats. I am sure those who are viewing this will say the same. Thanks, everyone, for tuning into these chapter chats. As always, if you have any questions on any of these chapter chats, put them in the comments or connect with us online on LinkedIn and ask your questions there. Happy to help. I know Chuck is more than happy to help with this. And it's, again, just been a true pleasure. And thanks so much, Chuck, for writing this book.